Good evening and welcome to the Unbroken Channels podcast, Down But Not Out. We are recording episode 6 and joining us tonight we have my co-host Ange Westbrook and our, I'm going to say victim, Elaine Hanson. Evening, Elaine.
Hi, you're right.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. So, as we start every podcast, we just like to get sort of an introduction into so people can sort of find out who you are and what you're about. So if you can just start by telling us your early forces history, i.e. when you joined the forces, and if you don't mind, what led to you leaving?
Okay, so I joined in 1988 into the Women's Royal Army Corps. Obviously, they disbanded, so I went into the Army Catering Corps, which then later amalgamated into the Royal Logistics Corps. I was a slot jockey. Came out in 96 due to medical discharge. It was an unknown illness, something to do with my legs, they thought, but actually it wasn't. It was to do with my spine, which was found out about 18 months later.
How much brufen did you consume before you were discharged?
I had addiction problems with brufen when I was released from the mob.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So a lot.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the solution to everything, as we
yes,
know.
Yeah, we joke about brufen, but that's not funny, is it?
No, exactly.
Brufen codeine.
Yeah.
Great mix.
Yeah. So with your spine, what was the initial condition with your spine?
So what had happened, I'd had a bit of an accident while still serving. I'd got not maliciously, just a pure accident, got knocked down some stairs and I landed on my knees on the stairs. So they thought I'd got a fracture in my leg, which I hadn't, didn't know what was wrong. I kept having problems, kept going to the MO, and got discharged with, we don't know what's the matter with you, but you're not fit to serve anymore. And then a month later, I'd collapsed at home and it was found that I'd actually fractured 4 vertebrae and shattered 3 discs. And that's where it all started.
And had you planned on staying in a long time?
I had, yeah. I was going to make it a career.
Life changing.
Yeah. So, yeah. And unfortunately, because I didn't complain about back pain while I was in, I couldn't claim a war pension because they said, well, he was discharged with leg pain, not back pain. But at the time, I didn't know that the two could be related. And it's since been said that it was due to that I damaged my back.
Wow. A lot of damage as well.
A lot of damage. So the operation in Vegas was my 6th operation to try and put it right. So yeah.
Yeah. So with war pension, then is that something that's now sorted itself out, or no?
No, I've been refused on appeal again.
Okay.
I get an invalidity pension off the army.
Yeah.
Which I think it's about $280 a month. So not quite enough to live on.
No.
But yeah, and obviously because I was a chef, because I've got obviously back problems, I had to give up my job as a chef, and then trying to find other work because of the medication I've been taking for 20 odd years. Nobody touched me because the medication I'm on is 100 times stronger than heroin.
Yeah.
So it's fentanyl, which is actually a banned substance, I believe, in the US.
I believe, it probably is. I know a lot of people had problems, with prescriptions, having to make sure they had all the right documentation to take it when we travelled. So you obviously discharge happened, back problems. So when did you have your first back surgery?
So my first back surgery was in 96,
okay.
Which was due to cauda equina, which is basically compression of the spinal cord. I had that one done quite successfully in Nottingham. But unfortunately, 6 months later, the same disc prolapsed again, so I had to have it redone. Then I went about 6 years, carried on working, and I was at work and I just passed out at work, didn't know why. Got taken into hospital and they found that it had happened again. So this time they had to do a discectomy as well as a laminectomy. So that one went over. That was in John Radcliffe in Oxford.
Okay.
Where
Then
were you working when that happened?
I was working as an exec chef for Mitchells and Butlers. So I wasn't actually in one place. I was a sneaky beaky for them. So I used to go round pulling all the really bad kitchens and getting them up to standard.
You're Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, I was basically I was their health and hygiene.
You need to check in with Rick. I've been swearing getting stuff.
It was quite good because nobody knew that was my job other than me and the higher management. So I used to just get paid to go and eat meals and then introduce myself and say, I want to have a look in the kitchen. And then I used to go and rip the kitchens apart, put in a report, and then spend a couple of weeks getting them sorted.
Nice.
So it was quite a nice job.
Yeah.
I didn't make many friends through it, mine, but it was quite a nice.
No, are you? Did they look after you when you had to go back into hospital?
They did for a year, and then obviously things got worse and worse because then I had it go again.
Yeah.
And I had a meeting with the HR then and took basically early retirement, redundancy really.
Yeah.
A medical redundancy. So I came back home to mum's obviously because I'd got a house with the job. So I came back home to mum after I'd had the next lot of surgery. Got a job right across the road from where I'm living at another Mitchells and Butler place, but just doing office work. But then the office work was compounding because it was so much I couldn't sit for long enough periods to do the office work. So again, I got medically retired again. So that was in 2010. Then in 2012, I had another op. This time was to tidy up the mess that they'd made. Then I went nearly 11 years, but I was still not working. In the meantime, I was diagnosed with PTSD and FND. FND is a neurological condition, but it's functional. It's not like, it's very similar to MS, but it doesn't show up on the white matter on your brain, basically.
Right. Okay.
FND is it's basically brought on through trauma and stress, and it's basically your hardwiring to your brain gets disturbed, and it doesn't turn off pain signals, and it doesn't turn off depression and things like that. It's very complex. So I was diagnosed with that in 2012. I woke up basically with stroke symptoms out of the blue, and then I was paralysed from the waist down for 6 months.
Wow.
With no why. Nobody found out why. Then I went and saw the neurologist, and they did lots of tests. They were like, "Yeah, you've got FND," and then the PTSD as well. Not combat PTSD, I hasten to add. It's not combat PTSD. It's PTSD from
medical
surgery and things.
Yeah.
It's quite common. I mean, that must have been terrifying though, waking up and not being able to move your legs.
Yeah, and I couldn't speak either. So it was a bit horrific. But a couple of weeks before, I kept having like drop attacks, and I thought it was something to do with my blood pressure, because my blood pressure used to dip real low if I was tired. So I just thought, oh, it's something to do with that. I'll just ignore it. It'll go away and rewrite itself. And then it just got worse to the point where I basically wake up and I was like, hang on, where's my legs gone?
Yeah.
And couldn't move. Well, it was really from my waist down. From the waist up I was okay, the waist down nothing. They thought it was something to do with my spine, but they couldn't see anything organic there either. But then a year after that, my spine, I went and saw a different surgeon because I was like, this is something's not right. And I saw a chiropractor who need x-ray. He went, mate, your spine's in shit order. You need to see a surgeon. So my mum and dad paid for me to go private. And they were like, holy crap, your spine's in a hell of a mess. You need urgent surgery again.
Yeah.
So I went in again. And I thought, that's it. It's the end now. I woke up, no pain. Brilliant. Still couldn't go to work because of the FND. But started doing voluntary work with the cadets and things, little things. SAFA, the Arboretum, British Legion. I say little things, but I was probably working more than when I was a chef.
Yeah.
And then 2021. Yeah, 22. So 2021, had the issue again, but this time it was really acute cauda equine. So I was rushed into the QE. No, actually, I was rushed into Good Hope first, and they delayed me. I couldn't go for a wee or anything. I got delayed at the QE because of COVID, I hasten to add, not because of anything they or I'd done. It was all down to COVID.
Yeah.
So I was 14 hours delayed, and then they forgot about me and forgot to order an ambulance to take me over to the QE. So by the time I got to the QE, it was nearly 2 days later, and the damage had been done then. So I had a 9-hour operation sorting that out. And as we know, they didn't sort it out very well because of what happened in Vegas.
Yeah, we need to come to that, don't we?
Yeah, we are definitely going to come to that.
Yeah.
So,
but in between 2000 in 21 after that operation, I got into a real low mood, and things were happening around me that I wasn't really aware of. So I contacted the British Legion, and they assigned a caseworker, and the caseworker came out and was like, have you ever been to Battleback? And I was like, I'd never heard of it. And I was like, what's that then? So he explained, and I went, no. And he said, is it something you'd like to do? And I went, yeah. He went, right, you're going next week. I was like, what? So it's all a bit of a whirlwind, a bit like Vegas, really.
Yeah.
So I went to Battleback, and it really did change my life. And that's how I got into the adaptive sports.
So for those that may listen to this that don't know what Battleback is, Elaine, can you just explain what the Battleback program is?
Sure, right. So Battleback's a centre for in-service as well as veterans, and they do what is called a multi-activity course. And on this course, they do adaptive sports. There's chance for you to have counselling, and they have guest speakers in, and they put on lots of other different activities. So I don't know if you guys have done it, but we used to do quiz nights, and they'd have us doing competitions against each other. And it's just about getting you out of the rut that you're in and getting you focusing on something different. I've never been a sports person before I went to Battleback. I would have avoided sport like the plague. A, because I'm not very good at it, but B, because of my back, I was always very, very cautious of what I did. Yeah. So it really opened my eyes when I went there. I think the first thing they did was put us in a wheelchair and made us play basketball in a wheelchair, which was really good fun. And then I think the next activity was curling. Did curling for some weird reason. Oh, because it was still COVID rules, so some of the sports were a bit different. So they had us curling. And then the next day was cycling. I was like, I can't ride a 2-wheel bike because I can't sit on it properly. And they're like, that's okay. We'll get you a recumbent. And I loved it. Did archery, loved it.
Yeah.
You know, and also you're with like-minded people that are all in the same boat. It might be for different reasons they're in that boat, but all in the same boat, so they know what you're talking about and they support you. It's like being back in the mob, having that support network that you don't get from. I'm going to be brutally honest. You don't get it from civvies.
No.
Civvies don't care. But no, I won't say they don't care. They don't understand. They don't understand. They probably do care, but they don't get us. So it was great. It was life changing. You spend a week there, Monday to Friday. You stay there. You get fed really good meals. You meet other people because we had the prison service in there while we were in there. So we had a quiz night against the prison service, which was an absolute hoot. We did a karaoke night. Yes, and I was the one on the table dancing with nothing, very little on.
None of us are surprised by that, mate.
Yeah, you know. So, and that's what got me into doing all the sport and everything. And now I miss it, like, because I've not been doing much at the moment because obviously I'm injured. I'm absolutely itching to get back. I was supposed to get to archery last week, but I've been benched again. So, but I'm absolutely dying to get back out, team sport, get on with it. You know,
something to focus on, isn't it? And when you talked about your PTSD due to your surgeries, I guess it's as much what you went through in the surgeries as it was perhaps feeling like hyper-vigilant and on edge in between each event, because this is something that you've had happen and then it's come back and bitten you out of the blue and then bitten you out of the blue again and then bitten you. So you must have been living life on edge, waiting for it to happen all the time and being really cautious. And that's exhausting. So that's going to take your mood down. That's going to contribute to the PTSD. It's awful.
Yeah. And also in the hospital as well. I've got a thing about I have to be able to see round me. So I don't like doors being shut. I like doors open so I can hear and do things. And in the hospital, they have a thing about shutting curtains all the time. And I say, please don't shut the curtains. Why? You've got to go to sleep now. No, just don't shut the curtains, please. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon. I don't need to go to sleep. I'm an adult. You know, and they couldn't understand it. And then I had to sit them down and explain why I don't like curtains being shut. They probably think that's really silly, but if you talk to a lot of veterans, I've spoken to a few that have got the same sort of issue. They don't like being in enclosed places and they have to sit facing the door. I'm not quite that bad. I can sit sideways on the door, but I have to know that it's open. I never shut my bedroom door at night. And I don't even lock my front door because I worry that if there's a fire, I won't be able to get downstairs in time and find the keys. And so my door's always open.
And this is what trauma does. This is what PTSD does. It narrows our view of the world and we expect the worst all the time.
Exactly. Especially that, you know, I'm so educated now that I'm looking really well, and you know, but I'm paranoid that if I just do something slightly wrong, you know, I'm going to call, like, so I've got another spinal fluid leak. Yeah. So now I'm paranoid, like, I better put my brace on all the time and I better do this and I better not do that. And I'm like, why am I like this? Well, like, I've just got to get on with it and let it heal as it heals. And also, because I'm under lots of different disciplines and getting lots of different information. So some people are saying don't wear your brace. Some people are saying put your brace on. Some people are saying don't do this sport, don't do that sport. Others are saying, oh no, you can have to go and do it. You'll soon find out if it hurts.
So you're sitting in even more uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's frightening.
Yeah. So, you know, so it's really hard gauging. And I'm also one of these people that if I see something needs doing, I will do it. And this is why cadets have had to rein me right back, because they're like, oh, you're not allowed to shoot, because if you see a kid in distress, you're going to jump straight in there, and you can't. So they've put me in the office now. I'm in the office doing office work, just because they know what I'm like. So I went to the Family's Day for the Invictus. Sarah walked around, and there's they've got all the inflatables, gladiator inflatables, and I'm like, yes. And Sarah's like, no.
Definitely not. So obviously, you mentioned Invictus there, Elaine.
Yes.
What were you advised to apply for sort of doing the Invictus trials through Battleback, or was that something that you found out later?
Kind of a little bit of both. I was recommended to go for my cycling, and I sort of went, yeah, maybe in a couple of years' time when I'm a bit fitter. But then when I came back from Battleback, I knew Johnny Schmidt, and me and him have been talking online for years, and then we'd met up and everything, and he said, like, come to the pre-selection trials, get your name down and everything, it'll do you good. And I was like, I'm not fit enough to do that. He was like, it's not about being fit, mate, it's about taking part, a lot of it. So he actually came up to the house and watched me make the application, and he was like, you are going.
Good lad.
Good.
Nice.
That's really, it was Johnny more than anything
Yeah.
that got me into it, which I thank him for every day. And I said to Mick, I was supposed to be down with Aunt Middleton this weekend with the Wounded Highlanders. I'm doing that as well.
Yeah, some of them doing that. Yeah,
but it's been put on hold, so the travel was too far for me to go today. So there'll be another time.
But you get to speak to us instead, and not being funny. Aunt Middleton or this. Yeah.
Well, Aunt Middleton can probably sit still for a bit longer and not keep scratching up his microphone constantly. You're a fidget arse, you are.
I am a fidget. I cannot sit still.
I know.
But yeah, so it is what it is that happened while we were away, unfortunately. It wasn't the sport's fault. The surgeon has clarified that. It was the fault of the last surgeon.
So let's just rewind, right? Okay. Let's just rewind. What, for the people that don't know, what happened in Vegas? That sounds like one of them. What happened in Vegas stays in Vegas. No, we're going to tell you what happened in Vegas now. Because just for everyone, before you start, for everyone that doesn't know, this lady went through hell and back, and we had to leave her behind, and no one likes leaving anyone behind. And we had to leave you behind for a long time. You were there for over a month, weren't you?
8 weeks.
2 months. My God. Yeah. So go on, start from the beginning.
Okay, so obviously I've been over doing the trials for the Warrior Games, the Air Force Warrior Trials. Been over about a week, done cycling, done my archery, done my practice for rowing. Thought everything was going reasonably well. Had a little bit of pain in my hip, so I thought I'd probably just strain myself on the rower in my practice. So I went and saw a physio, had a bit of physio, felt all right. The next day, I had been out for a bit of a drink the night before, but it wasn't drink related, thank goodness. I woke up and I wasn't feeling too great, so I'd said to my roomie, I'm not going to go over to the base today. I'm going to have a day in the hotel resting because I feel a bit rough. And she's like, have you got a hangover? And I was like, no, it's nothing like a hangover. I said, my back's really painful and my hips, so I think I need to get some ice and some physio and just chill for the day. So I phoned Hannah, and she said, oh, they'll phone me at various times during the day. Anyway, I think I'd answered once and then they couldn't get any response from me, so I came back to the hotel and knocked on my door apparently, and I didn't answer. Shouted, screamed, didn't answer. So then they decided to go and get the security from the hotel. So the security came, let them in, and I was unconscious.
What time was this? Because Shirley was with us, your roommate was with us, and she was like worried about going back because she said that you hadn't really been moving or done anything that day. So was this a bit later than that?
This was Shirley had gone. I think they'd gone over to the Strip. I think there's a couple of them going to the Strip. But this must have been about 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
When they came in, so they went and got the doc because we had an Air Force doc with us, and doc came on. They tried sitting me up, and every time they sat me up, I passed out. So they laid me back down, and then the doc was talking to me, saying like, "What's wrong? Like, where are you hurting? You must be hurting if you're passing out." And I was like, "It's my back." So she was like, "Right, okay." So they flipped me over. The doc had a look, and she was like, "I'm really not happy. We'll phone an ambulance." So they phoned for an ambulance, but the ambulance was going to be over an hour to get to me, and the doc didn't think I had an hour. So basically, they went and nicked a chair off one of the amputees, wheeled me down, and the doc took me over with Hannah and Beth. Got into the hospital, and it just all went crazy from there. Like literally, everybody was running around me. I'd got the tubes coming out of everywhere. I went for an MRI scan, then a CAT scan, then an X-ray, and they were just pumping me full of drugs. In fact, I woke up and was laughing because in my room there was a plaque, and it said Tupac died here. Yeah, that's God's honest truth. And I was like,
wow.
No, I need to move. Yeah. Apparently while I was in there was about 4 or 5 shotgun injuries, and there was another bloke.
Beth said she saw some really traumatic stuff just in the ER while you were going through, and it was a really not a nice place to be, and you know, going through enough anyway.
Yeah. So then they decide they're going to admit me. So I'm waiting for a bed, so I get taken to a bed. Unbeknown to me, it was the intensive care ward. So I've got into intensive care. They've hooked me up to every machine I could think of. I've got doctors coming in and out, flapping like, "Are you all right? What's going on?" Like, so then the neurosurgeon came in and said, "This is what's happening. Like, you're in a mess. You need an operation. You've got a choice. You can either have it here or go home." So initially I was going to go home. However, none of the hospitals in the UK were willing to take me. I'd have to go in to the QE and wait in A&E. And the neurosurgeon said that, so a 12-hour flight home, because it was air ambulance, so it would have been 12 hours because I'd have had to have a layover, because you can't, if you're in an air ambulance, you can't fly for more than 6 hours. So I'd have had to have a layover. So it would have been 12 hours flighting, but with a day in between. So basically 2 days later, the surgeon was like, "She'll never make it." So they were, in the meantime, they were going to phone round other hospitals to see if anywhere else would take me. The air ambulance was booked, so they were going to come in regardless and take me somewhere, even if it meant dropping me somewhere. But before I could go on the air ambulance, you have to have a COVID test, because obviously I'm going from a hospital to another hospital. So they did the COVID test, and surprise, surprise, it came back positive. So that scuppered any chance of me flying home.
And how long had you been in hospital at this stage?
So I went in on the 29th of Feb, and this was on the 7th of March.
So you've been
so
in.
You guys had just got home, I think.
Yeah, we did.
So on the 7th of March, because the COVID test came back positive, they were like, "Right, you've got to go in quarantine for 10 days. You can't do anything anyway. We're just going to stabilise you." Right, okay, not a problem. So they moved me into my own room on intensive care. I got ventilator on and all sorts of stuff going on. Then I think I'd gone to get up to go to the toilet and I collapsed. So the neurosurgeon was called back in, sent back down for another MRI. She came back and she was like, we need to operate right now. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, right now. She said, if I don't operate now, you're going to be either paralysed or dead. So I was like, so she said, you need to sign these consent forms. I was like, what am I signing? She was like, just sign it there. We'll worry about the legal part when you come round. We need to get you in. I was like, I didn't think you could operate with COVID. And she said, I don't care. She said, if I don't operate, you're either going to be in a box or you're going to be paralysed. We're going. She said, I can just swab you with antibiotics.
And at this point, you were completely by yourself.
Yeah. So I was like, what the hell? Well, I need to make sure what I'm signing because I don't want to sign and then get loaded with a big bill. And she was like, well, worry about the bill. She said, we can get ways of doing that. She said, even if the insurance don't pay, we can sort it out. The VA will pay for it. I went, no, the VA won't because I'm not an American service person. I'll sort it out one way or the other, just sign here. So I kind of felt a bit pressured, but I thought, I haven't got much choice, have I, really? It's do or die or lose your legs. So I signed and I said, when am I going down? Tonight. And she was like, no, I'm taking you straight down now. Wow. So basically they just anaesthetised me on the ward, took me down and said, oh, I remember the last word said was, we'll be 4 hours in surgery. I was like, brilliant. Unfortunately, when they opened me up, it was a lot worse than they thought. So I did 12 3/4 hours in surgery.
So remember you and I had that chat on the phone a few weeks back and you were telling me everything that they found. Tell us what they found.
Okay, so I've got 4 fractures in my spine. 2 of my discs hadn't been anchored down properly enough so that it was inevitable that they were going to slip out again. So one of the discs had actually partially severed through my spinal cord. The nerves to my legs, I could never understand why I didn't have any feeling in my groin and my legs. The nerves to my legs had been severed as well, and they hadn't repaired them, they just left them. And scar tissue over the years, where the scar tissue had built up, the scar tissue from the last operation had grown over the nerves to my legs. So basically there was no nerves in my legs operating. There was a 4-inch cut through my bladder, which hadn't been repaired, and urine had been leaking from my bladder into my stomach, basically. So that, and I'd also got a CF leak, because where they'd done the last operation, they hadn't noticed that I'd got a leak. So that had been leaking for 2 years. So she said, how the hell I hadn't ever got meningitis, she doesn't know.
And you've been going to the doctors about that, haven't you? About your ears.
And I'd phoned the surgeon up as well and begged him to see me 3 or 4 times. In fact, funnily enough, I've had a thing to do from the surgeon in the QE today, because it's my 2-year anniversary. I've have him operating on me, so I've just written a beautiful letter to him. And also the scar tissue had actually started to calcify over onto the bone, so the scar tissue was hard, so they ended up chiseling that away as well.
So you're out there, you're in Vegas, you're on your own, you're miles from family, you're sitting in uncertainty, not knowing which hospital's going to take you, when they're going to operate, how they're going to operate. Then you're told you need to operate now or you're going to either die or lose your leg. Yeah. Then you come around after what wasn't 4 but was 12 and a bit hours surgery, and you get told all of this.
Yeah.
How did you manage your mental well-being in that 8 weeks?
I don't think I did. I think the nursing staff were very good, and placated me a lot of the time and diverted me onto different things. And I had a bit of counselling while I was in there because of the severity of the surgery, but they didn't really know about all my other stuff. They tried taking my fentanyl off me because they thought they'd given me the fentanyl there, and they stopped prescribing it. I was like, "Where's my fentanyl? Where's the patch?" And they were like, "No, you're not allowed to have it anymore." I was like, "No, the fentanyl's not for my spine. The fentanyl's for my FND. I'm a PTSD. I suggest you get it me. We don't give it you here." I was like, "Well, I suggest you go into my bag and find some, because," I said, "I've been on that for 12 years and you can't just stop it like that. I'll be tripping out." So the surgeon had to come in and re-prescribe it, because she thought that one of the surgeons had prescribed for me just for surgery. She hadn't realised that I'd been on it.
No, because of course they don't have your medical records, do they?
Exactly.
You're in another country.
Exactly. So I was freaking out about that. And then I was freaking out about with the curtain thing. And then I had some old dear next to me screaming all night. As soon as the night shift would come on, she'd start screaming. And it went on for 5 nights. And in the end,
we didn't know that bit.
The
thing is, you've been through so much, and then you have this sleep deprivation night after night.
Yeah, I did.
I've probably done exactly the same.
Yeah, and so then 5 minutes later, I was moved into another room.
Funny old thing. It's interesting you have to get to that extreme to actually get them to listen.
And obviously, when you're over there as well, people here, sort of people that had been in Vegas with you, Team UK, try to keep some contact with you, try and get your spirits up, bit of team cohesion still.
Yeah. I can't grumble at that. Everybody was super cool with me. Do you know what I mean? They were like messaging me, videoing, FaceTiming me. I can't fault that. That's what kept me going, really, was like I'd wake up in the early hours of the morning, and obviously you were 8 hours in front of me. So I'd wake up in the early hours of the morning, but it'd probably be about 8, 9 o'clock in Britain.
Yeah.
Right. And I know I could open WhatsApp and go, "Help," and there'd be somebody there. Somebody'd jump in and go, "Well, you're right, mate, what's going on?" And so that was really good. The staff, British Legion staff, were pretty good as well. And believe it or not, Troy, who was the liaison officer, as you probably remember, he was absolutely amazing. He phoned up Nellis and he got airmen and airwomen to come out and see me. And I don't know if you remember on the opening ceremony of the game, do you remember there was I think she was a Major General, female.
Yeah.
Blonde lady.
Yeah. She actually came out to see me. She'd flown in from Alabama, I think it was, because she'd gone after the opening ceremony somewhere else. She flew back in and bought me a big goodie bag full of pajamas, wash kit, magazines, coffee.
Wow.
Coffee.
Yeah, amazing.
Coffee.
Yeah. And she said, she gave me a business card and that. And she said, if I need anything, just phone her and she'd get it organised, not a problem. And they sent people from Nellis. I didn't know any of them, really. They weren't the teammates. These were just regular serving aircrew. And a couple of army as well. They just came out and they'd always drop into Starbucks on the way, bring me a Starbucks cup. Because the funny thing is, you're not allowed coffee in the hospital. So you can only have it at breakfast time, and then it's like pish. It's like pish.
Yeah.
So as somebody who drinks coffee 24/7, not having that coffee was making me even worse because I was getting the. So
and this comes back to this military thing. This is the military thing. This is what we do. So the US we're doing it for, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Team UK we're doing it for, yeah. Do you mind sharing what else Team UK did for you?
So, the beautiful people, they had a whip round for me because I'm hopefully moving into a new bungalow. And I'd said, I need to get a new settee and everything. So they had a whip round and raised just short of £1,000. So I've actually bought the settee. It's actually in the garage here at the moment. It came
Amazing.
yesterday. And with the rest of the money, I asked permission from Emily. I said, do you mind if I spend the rest on things for the house as well? Because I haven't spent as much as I thought on the settee because I got it from a charity shop. It's brand new. And she went, make sure money, do what you want. So
and this is where we need to give a big shout out to Em Stockley because she organised that, and
she did.
Awesome.
It was,
and I think when we talked about with her when to break the news to you, we were very mindful what you were going through and when it was going to be the right time. And how did it feel when she told you that?
Oh, I cried. It was like, I've only known a lot of you. I've known a few of you a lot longer, but I've only known a lot of you through the pre-selection at the Invictus. So, but in that short amount of time, I've made some of the best friends ever, and as for the Las Vegas team, like, that's going to be lifelong now. I'm hoping we're all going to stick together, meet up and things. I mean, they've all said you're going to come down and invade the bungalow when I move in and that. Andy's coming down at the end of the month to do a bit of work on my bike, and we're going to go out and have a bit of lunch. Steve comes out quite a bit. I see Charlie die quite a bit. So it's just like, and then obviously because we've got the WhatsApp page still going, we're all still in contact. So some days I do feel a bit low and a bit, but I know I can just go on there and go, right, cheer me up because I'm feeling really pissed off today.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all done that in there. It helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, massively. And also, yourself, I've spoke to you personally, haven't I? And I know that we can help each other. If we've got issues going on, that's what it's there for. We help each other. Sarah Curry, she's been really good, to be fair. She's still phoning me up at least twice a week just to say, are you all right? Do you need anything? So, she got me the back in the cycling course, so, and the bike repairs for me bike and everything. So, it is really.
They wrap their arms around us, don't they?
Yeah.
Massively.
And as well as obviously that fundraiser, I don't know if you were aware, but you were big Chris Allsop.
Yes.
Wanted to do an actual homecoming for you at the airport.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was nearly a thing. He worked really hard.
He was emailing people to try and find flight details, and he wanted to welcome you home, Team UK kit. And unfortunately, because obviously you were coming back via sort of like a medevac situation,
wasn't going to be where we could have seen you.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to see you, but yeah, big Chris was so desperate to put something together. So when you came back, you had some friendly faces to see. Were you not aware of that?
No, I didn't know that. That's a huge surprise to me.
Chris is a big softie, isn't he? Aren't you, Chris?
Yeah,
I know you'll be listening.
Dad. But yeah, so and that now I'm just like, I'm going to focus on my recovery, get as clean and recovered as I can, and then start back at it again in October. Just keep going. That's all I can say is, we're one big family now, so why would I want to give that up?
Yeah, and I'll need to give you some more tips for your bike.
Yeah, definitely.
Turn you into a little speed demon.
Yeah.
Do you know what though, Elaine? I noticed with you, and when I said to you, how do you cope with your mental well-being for that 8 weeks, and you said, well, I didn't. Well, you did.
Yeah.
You got through it, and with you, Like, you are literally always smiling. And when you've described everything that you've been through, there's not a lot to smile about, but you still smile, and you are such an engaging personality, and your heart's open to everyone and to connecting, and so it isn't just about Team UK being strong and cohesive. It's about the individual characters and us going, it's Elaine, we need to get round her here, and support her and lift her up, because this is rubbish and it was awful for you, and I'm so sorry you went through that.
That's one of them things, isn't it? So I look at it now, and it was horrific at the time. It was bad because I've got nobody over there. So, like in the UK, you have your family and your friends that can come out and see you, don't they? But there, but I did make some new friends as well. I didn't tell you about the. Did I ever tell you about the guy that was in a ball and chain in shackles?
No.
Right. So every morning, after the doctors came round, right, they do the doctors' rounds, then you have your exercise period, right? Because bearing in mind, there's no windows in the wards, right? So it's dark constantly. So every morning after the doctors have been, you're allowed to go up and do your exercise. And I didn't know at the time that you're not allowed to get dressed. So I'd obviously got up, pulled on a pair of tracky bottoms and a t-shirt, got my brace on, and was going off to do my exercise. And it was like one flew over the cuckoo's nest in the morning, because, like, honestly, right, you'd have the mad, the insane, and the right. And I'm walking down this one day, and I could hear this, like, it sounded like a chain dragging, and I thought, oh, it must be a blind, the wind's blowing. I walk around the corner, and there's this massive big bloke, right? He must have been 6'8", built like a brick shit house, with this ball and chain on his leg, and he was tied to this prison guard, right? So I'm walking past, and I go, "It's morning," and he spat at me, right? Right, he spat at me, right? And the guard, like, really, honestly, the guard walloped him one, right? And he was dragged into this side room. So I just carried on walking. And then I get us round, and then all the drug addicts are on the bottom end of the ward. So they're all sat monging out because they've all just been given the methadone, right? And there's me, like, pretty normal, really, aren't I? Right? So I'm walking around, and then this nurse came running after me. And she's like, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm doing my exercise, I'm going for a walk around the ward." And she's like, "You're not allowed down there." And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "That's where all the addicts are. And if you go down there, you might become an addict." And I've looked at her, right? And I've looked at her, and I was like, "Yeah, all right then, okay." And she was like,
"It's not catching, love."
Right. And then she said, "And why have you got dressed?" And I was like, "Because it's daytime." This must have been one of the first days when I was allowed out of bed. And I was like, "Why have you got dressed?" And I was like, "Because I'm allowed out of bed." And she was like, "Just because you're allowed out of bed doesn't mean you can get dressed, you know." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, in the UK, well, once you're out of bed, you get dressed and you do your exercises." And she was like, "No." She goes, "Go and get your gown back on." Went back, got my gown back on, carried on doing my exercise. She was like, you've done your exercise for today, back to bed." And then they come in, shut the curtains, turn the lights off. "We'll wake you up at lunchtime." Because they think sleep is as good as medicine as drugs. So they try and keep, what they do is they drug you to go to sleep. So you just constantly,
a little bit scary, that, isn't it?
Yeah. And while we're on the point of American healthcare, now, by no means this isn't a political podcast.
No.
We know, we've all had some problems with the NHS in the UK.
Yeah.
However, how grateful should we be? Because I know, insurance has got you covered, but for those 8 weeks, Elaine, what was your medical bill?
1.2 million.
$1.2 million.
Yeah.
And I know, people like to complain about the NHS, and, you just have to hear that and think,
make sure you've got insurance when you go away.
Yeah, and definitely make sure you got travel insurance. I've booked a holiday to the US for next year, and I've already bought the travel insurance already, because it is absolutely crazy.
So they charge you for your bed by the day.
We've just had somebody on the chat. Gibbo, he's a friend of mine. He's just put, I want to swear because of that price. Yeah, it is mental.
So I had 14 screws in my spine, and one screw was $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah. That's without the rods and the cage and everything else that I had in there.
You could have just sent me to B&Q.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. I could have got a whole pack for you for like 20 quid from Walmart.
Yeah, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the meals,
go on the meals.
$15 each. Definitely not worth $15. They were awful. They were worse than the UK hospital food. Everything was Mexican and spicy, even your breakfast. I think it was to keep your bowels moving, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
quite possibly. These are the reasons.
Anyway, go on.
However, I cannot fault the care that I had over there. From the surgeon down to even the cleaners. It must have been the cleanest hospital for a community hospital I've ever been in. It was spotless. The nursing staff were so attentive. I had one little nurse that before she came on shift at 6 a.m, used to go to Starbucks and bring me my Starbucks. And before she went home at night, she'd go to Starbucks and put a Starbucks on my table before she went home. She used to bring in cookies for me.
That's the human touch, isn't it? And this 1.4 million or 1.2 million, you wonder how much the cleaners and the nurses get, and they're doing that for you. No, and it won't be. But I mean, that is a nice note to finish on today, isn't it? Thanking the staff that carried you through that as well.
They were absolutely amazing. I can't fault any of them.
Yeah,
and my surgeon is phoning me up once a week. I don't know if I'm being charged for that, mind. That's probably why my bill's going up each week. But she phones me up once a week. Or
ask her, how much is this call?
Yeah. Yeah. So which is good, because I haven't had any leads with doctors in this country yet. They just don't want to know. So it's kind of good that she's still looking after me. In fact, she's writing a letter to my GP. She should get it on Monday. Do you know what I do find bizarre though? They still use fax machines for communication in the US. They don't know about emails.
Yeah.
But that was really bizarre, because they were like, "Can you fax me?" And I was like, "What? Fax? I haven't used one of them since the 80s."
Yeah, it's crazy. It is mental.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elaine, you're back now.
Yes, indeed.
You need to take your time on this recovery and not rush it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll have us all down there banging on your door, locking you in a room.
Please do.
Thank you very much for coming on and speaking to us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's nice to get an insight into everything that you've been through, and for other people to hear it. Yeah. Ange, as always, thanks for
Ange.
Thanks for coming in and being really, really nosy, because that helps.
Thank you for letting me be really nosy, but it's always nice to see Elaine smiling.
And we're going to wrap up the episode there. So, final thought. Invictus 25.
Yeah.
You're applying.
Absolutely.
Good.
Of course I am.
Yeah. And that's when I'd probably say that's probably going to be the next time. Realistically, it's probably going to be the next time that a lot of us manage to get together and have a catch up in person, and get one of those big Elaine hugs.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening. And
thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.